Hey, today we are going to take a look at the recent hotfix 1-July 7th, 2023 on the latest patch. As most of you already know, the recent update 1.04 had caused some issues in terms of rewarding players with uber unique items. I only say this is an issue because of course Blizzard was quick to pounce on this, which then of course a hotfix came right after. And yeah, this was quite devastating and unexpected to see the developers quickly react to this, yet quality life updates tend to take a few weeks. I'm sure overall when it comes down to these updates they have to be approved, and sometimes when it comes down to glitches or even exploits they can end up hotfixed within a matter of seconds. Now with that information to the side, let's dive into the hotfix notes that are here so far. They are going to eventually release hotfix number 2, which this is going to be based around the uber unique items. So if we take a look right here, we have 2 changes towards Necromancer builds, and then below that there is some developer notes that we can see. Quote, "This indeed is a nerf to Bloodlance, but Bloodlance has been good for Necromancers that it has been crashed in the game. This is a temporary solve while the team reworks the way legendary aspects will function. And we expect this change sometime in Season 1 or shortly after," end quote. That's kinda sad to see that it's gonna take a little bit longer, but hey, eventually you Necromancers out here are going to be able to benefit from your builds that you were able to, benefit from previously. Sadly, it has been temporarily nerfed, but this is just temporary, right? This, of course, was a major issue with Necromancer, specifically the Bloodlance. If it was applied incorrectly, could cause the game to freeze up, and eventually the game would crash. As you can imagine, the devs were inclined to fix this major issue. The 2 changes that were made specifically towards this class can be found right here. Quote, "Enhanced Bloodlance now pierces up to a maximum of 10 enemies. Aspects of Hungry Blood now fires up a maximum of 3 blood lances per cast," end quote. Continuing on with these notes, they've made some awesome changes for Whisper Cache. You will now be able to acquire a Nightmare Sigil always on the first cache that you open up for the day. This change can be found right here below the developer's notes. Quote, "The first Whisper Cache you acquire will now grant a Nightmare Sigil," end quote. This will help out a majority of players in terms of picking up a sigil easy. So there's nothing too important here underneath gameplay changes. Of course it says bug fixes, further stability improvements. This can either be something maybe on the network side or possibly some sort of elite spawns. I honestly have no clue, but to be honest, it's most likely just a server thing. And so when hotfix number 2 comes out, this is most likely just going to fix the uber unique items so that they can drop again, yet the drop rate's probably not going to be that ridiculous high that it was like before, where a majority of you players out here were able to grab one. Unfortunately, I missed out. I was sadly doing something else at the time and I could not acquire this beautiful Harlequin crest, and I'm sure it will happen eventually. And so before I go, I do want to talk about 2 more things that I think is going to benefit a few of you out here. If you're looking for a great legendary farm, I highly suggest that you check out the last video, because this loot cave drops a crap ton of legendaries and it still works after patch. You can use this right now just by simply going to the link down below. I'll have it pinned there in the comment section. This is going to take you to another video that's going to show you how to basically pick up 3 to 4 different legendaries per run. Sometimes it's rare, it can happen either 1 to 2 items and sometimes none, but for the most part it will drop a legendary in this cave and it's freaking phenomenal. And last but not least, if you are a new player, you have to hear this because this is a mistake that you most likely will make, and it has to do with aspects. I did upload a video earlier discussing this, yet I had to remove it because some sound was just all wonky for whatever reason. I'm slowly getting everything together when it comes down to this rendering. It's just some new audio, new stuff I'm messing with. Anyways, continuing on with what I was saying, if you do have a low item power, such as like a level 48 item with a power level 700, and then you try to throw on an aspect that's probably a level 70, and then you apply that to your weapon, so you want to imprint it, you're going to see that the preview screen is going to pop up at that specific level, so you're no longer going to have like a level 40 item, instead it'll be something higher. this can absolutely ruin your builds and potentially screw you over on some alternative characters that you're trying to build. This can be one of the most frustrating issues that I can possibly think of when it comes down to Diablo. It's kind of a huge miss because a lot of players, they just kind of throw these aspects on without really thinking about it, because you see the damage, you see the effects, and you're like, oh, that's a great idea. I'll apply it and we'll see what happens. But eventually you find out that it kind of ruins your builds. Like, you will not be able to use this on a rogue character, for example, or possibly a druid. It really just depends. This is why I highly recommend that if you are going to be messing around with your aspects, it's a good idea to go into your stash box and separate the ones that you're not going to use. So if it's a level 70, make sure you just throw that into your stash box and just keep the level 40 ones around that you want to mess with and apply to different jewelry pieces, arms, helmets, etc. This is just a great way to kind of separate the loot so you're not accidentally applying something that you do not want. It's always a great idea to always look at the preview screen before continuing on. Most of the time, if you're like me, you probably just want to throw that aspect on, which is a lot of players are like that because you're just like, oh, the damage, everything's there, and it just eventually ruins the whole process of creating a build. And not to mention, rerolling a fix can be quite annoying, so you can lose out on a crap ton of gold. And as I've mentioned previously, if you are affected by, just some crappy RNG, then you can of course check out the previous video that I mentioned. Again, that is down below. Click it, check it out. It's a great way to acquire a crap ton of gold, legendaries, rare items, aspects that you can use and print on other items, all that good stuff. So yeah, with that being said, thank you guys for currently checking out the video. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I appreciate everyone that is currently subscribed and is a member. And with that being said, if you're not a member, subscribe now by clicking the red subscription button and the notification icon there on the right side. Other than that, thank you all for supporting the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.